Welcome to week 9 of the summer Bible study videos. Week 9 out of 10. That means that next week is the last week of summer Bible study videos, and you will have read through the Gospel of Mark. And if you haven't, it's not that long, so you can actually catch up if you want to do that. And then we're going to take a little bit of a break before the fall starts, and we're going to get messages out there in a different way. But we'll talk about that later. I'm excited about it though. It'll be fun. So here we go. Week 9, Mark 14 and 15. This is simple today, but I think this might be the most important one that we do. So here we go. I want to just ask this question. It's really simple. What is Christianity all about? Like when you think about what is Christianity all about, what do you think of? Well, here's the problem. When you ask most non-Christians, people that don't believe in Jesus, wherever they are on that spectrum, most of them think that it is about what you do, how good of a person somebody is. It's about a certain person going to church a lot, trying to be good, whatever. Sometimes people even can look at it politically today. They can kind of view Christians as, a part of this kind of stuff, but not a part of this kind of stuff. And those are some views. Now, even inside the church, as Christians, it is easy to think that Christianity is mostly about us and what we do. In fact, I've heard tons of speakers, preachers, pastors, and a lot of their sermons and messages and teaching is all about focusing on the life of the Christian, how well we're doing, how we can do better, that we need to do better and work harder and try more. And a lot of messages can even be like that. Now, here's the thing. The problem with that is that there is nothing in the gospel, the good news of what Jesus did for us, that encourages us to focus on ourselves. There's nothing in the gospel that encourages me to focus on me. The gospel says, no. I'm actually the problem. And I can't do anything to solve it. I need to look outside of myself to Jesus and what he has done, not inside myself to who I am and what I do. And that's a completely different message than the culture is giving you. But a lot of people don't think that that's the main message of Christianity, which is really crazy. So here's the thing. If you're watering a plant, if you constantly are digging up that plant to check and see how it's doing, it's never going to grow. And I think something very similar is true in the Christian life. If we're constantly looking at ourselves, examining ourselves, we're not going to grow much. It's when we focus on Jesus, who he is and what he did, that's when we actually grow. So in Mark 14 to 15, what you're going to see is Mark's going to do just that. Over and over and over again, he is going to emphasize that Jesus is the point. Jesus is the hero of the story. You're going to see people in Mark 14 to 15, all different types of people fail. You're going to see the disciples fail. You're going to see Peter, Jesus' main disciple, fail. You're going to see religious leaders fail. You're going to see the Roman government fail. You're going to see all sorts of people make mistakes, but Jesus is the one who through it all stands firm. He's faithful. He accomplishes his mission. He is the hero of the story. That's what Mark's going to show us in Mark 14 to 15. And that really is because of this. There are two ways that you can read the Bible. You can read the Bible, number one, as if it is primarily about you and what you do. Now, the Bible definitely has things in it that teach us how to live a wise life. It's because it's the way that God intended us to live in order to experience joy and to glorify him. But that's not the main point of the Bible, is to tell us what we need to do. The second way that you can read the Bible is you can read it as if it is a story about God and what he is doing, what he did in Christ to save sinners. So there's two ways to read the Bible. If you read it the first way, everything you read, you're going to look at it as like there's a moral of the story that teaches you to be a better person. If you read it the second way, you're going to be looking for how it points you to your sin, but Jesus is saving. That's it. So that's what we're going to see in Mark 14 to 15 is that Mark's saying, hey, look at Jesus. Look at him. We fail, but Jesus succeeded. If you start, I want to start before we look at something in Mark 14. In Genesis, okay, there's really a 3-part plot line of the Bible. I stole this from somebody else. If you want to understand the storyline of the whole Bible, Genesis to Revelation, all 66 books, about 1,500 years, approximately 40 different authors, 3 different continents, 3 different languages, okay, you're going to see that there's a main storyline. So here's the 3-part plot line of the Bible. Okay, this is it. God made all things good. That's how it starts in Genesis 1 and 2. God made all things good. Okay, part 2, we broke all good things. That's Genesis 3. That Adam and Eve, sin entered into the world. We broke all good things. And that is why there is dysfunction and brokenness in the world that we live in today. Okay, but number 3 is that God is on a mission to make all things new. That's what the whole Bible is about, is that God is on a rescue mission to make all things new through Jesus. And in Genesis 3, when Adam and Eve sinned, Adam's story is our story. That in Genesis 3, in that moment when they gave in to Satan's temptation, what's really happening is that they wanted to be God. They wanted to be in his place. And what you could call it is it was self-salvation. Is they don't want to depend on him anymore. They wanted to be in charge. They wanted to put themselves in his place. And we do that all the time. That we are addicted to accomplishments, to success, to acceptance, to achievement, to self-reliance, to self-trust. We look to things all the time smaller than Jesus to make us happy. And that's what Adam and Eve did in that moment. They were looking to things smaller than God to fulfill them, to make them happy, to give their life meaning and significance. So Adam and Eve, they failed in the garden, and their story is our story. We are them. We struggle with the same thing. But if you fast forward many years later in Mark 14, what you're reading this week, starting in verse 32, there is another garden. That Adam and Eve, that was not the only garden, the Garden of Eden. There is another garden. This time, though, it's the Garden of Gethsemane. And in that garden, if you read it, it starts in verse 32. Jesus is in Gethsemane. And it goes on. He's with his 3 main disciples, Peter, James, and John. And it says that he began to be greatly distressed and troubled. He said his soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Why? Because he had a taste of what he was about to experience on the cross. That he was about to take all of the punishment that we deserve for sin. And he had a taste of that. That he was going to be separated from the Father for that moment on the cross. And he had a taste of it. And it led him to that kind of distress. But in that passage, he doesn't run away. He doesn't disobey God. Instead, what he says to the Father is he says, not my will, but your will. So he submits himself to the Father's plan. So in that moment, what we see is that in this garden, this time, where Adam failed in the Garden of Eden, Jesus succeeded in the Garden of Gethsemane. Where Adam disobeyed in the Garden of Eden, Jesus obeyed in the Garden of Gethsemane. And that's exactly what Paul says in Romans 5. That in Romans 5, verses 18 and 19, awesome verses, Paul says that as one trespass led to condemnation for all men, so one act of righteousness leads to justification in life for all men. For as by the one man's disobedience the many were made sinners, so by the one man's obedience the many will be made righteous. So there's 2 gardens. There's 2 people. Where Adam failed and we live into that, Jesus succeeded for us. He obeyed. So there's really 3 transfers that happen in the Bible according to this. One is Adam's guilt to us. So we are born guilty sinners. Okay, the second one is our guilt goes to Jesus on the cross. And then the third one is that Jesus' righteousness goes to us. That's the trade. We're born sinners, but if we trust in Christ, he takes our sin and he gives us his righteousness. That's what happens. So why does that matter? What's the point? Well, it matters more than anything else. It matters more than anything else because the primary message of the Christian faith is what Jesus has done. That God so loved us that he sent Jesus to die for us. And that's the point, is that the focus and the foundation of the Christian faith is not what I do for God. It is what God in Christ has done for me. The focus and foundation of the Christian faith is not you and how good you are. It's Jesus and how great he is and how incredible his love is for you. And if I really trust in that and I focus on him, his love for me and what he did for me, then that means that on my bad days, I'm not going to be depressed. On my good days, I'm not going to be proud because I am in forever. I'm accepted forever. It has nothing to do with me at all. That he knows everything about you. He knows everything about me. And that's the person that he died for. That's the person that he loves. And that acceptance doesn't run out on our best days and on our worst days. That's the gospel. That's the good news. That's what this thing's about. So I want to end with this. Okay, I've tried to just be kind of launching these gospel grenades at you this whole time. I want to end with this. This is amazing. This is from the Valley of Vision. This is an old Puritan prayer book. Okay, this is a prayer in it. This is incredible. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what they say. I want to end with this. Christ was all anguish that I might be all joy, cast off that I might be brought in, trodden down as an enemy that I might be welcomed as a friend, surrendered to hell's worst that I might attain heaven's best, stripped that I might be clothed, wounded that I might be healed, athirst that I might drink, tormented that I might be comforted, made ashamed that I might inherit glory, entered darkness that I might have eternal light. That is how much he loves you. Focus on that and remember that's the point of Christianity. Let's soak that in and let's pass that on to other people. All right, we'll see you next week for the last one, and then we'll let you know what we're doing in the fall.